Are you in the mood for something healing? How about the uplifting new play, The Art of Care? It celebrates how we care for and are cared for by others. Exactly the kind of show I need in my life this time of year. Mosaic Theater presents The Art of Care, October 31st through November 24th at the Atlas Performing Arts Center. Get tickets at mosaictheater.org and come celebrate our shared humanity.
Today on CityCast DC. Sandwiched between the street and the Crystal City Metro, there's this network of passages that served as kind of a bizarro underground mall for decades. But as of this week, most of that mall is shutting down for good. The owner of Total Party, which is a store that's been there for 9 years, joins me today to talk about when the Crystal City Mall thrived, why it's died, and what's next. Oh, and by the way, our fall member campaign wrapped up last week. We saw such a heartwarming show of support from you guys, and we're so grateful. Thank you to our members, longtime and new. And if you didn't get a chance to become a member, don't worry, you can join anytime at membership.citycast.fm. Today is Monday, October 28th. I'm Senior Executive Producer Priyanka Tove, and here's what DC is talking about. Lorenzo, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So we're obviously here to talk about Crystal City Mall shutting down, but I want to start with just backing up a little bit. You're the owner of Total Party. What is Total Party?
So Total Party was a brainchild of mine back in 2004, actually. I started in Georgetown. I was working at Georgetown University, and I was looking for a career change, and I decided to open up a seasonal pop-up Halloween store because I remember students always saying there's no costume shop around. So I opened up a costume shop in the Shops at Georgetown Park Mall, which existed back then. That's where it all started. I
feel like for people who haven't been, we need to set the scene a little bit because this underground mall is like just a whole vibe of its own. I go rock climbing at Movement, so I frequently walk from the metro through the underground mall to get there. Can you describe it? Like what does it feel like? What does it look like?
Yeah, so I mean, the word mall, when you think of a traditional mall, and this is not one of those places. I consider this more like an underground commuter mall because it really is a transit center in that you have the Crystal City Metro stop here, you have the VRE across Crystal Drive. So people use this as a transit area, also the Marriott Hotel, which is all connected underground. And it's kind of a neat concept. I mean, it was built obviously back in, I guess, in the 60s where it was, everything was car-centric and most stores and whatnot was all underground, was all hidden from the streets. And when we first arrived, it was vibrant. I mean, it was quite vibrant. There was like at least 15, maybe even 20 businesses that were here that are no longer here when we arrived, including like, a Rite Aid, Annie Ann's, Chocolate Place, and so forth, and Starbucks, 2 restaurants. I mean, the list goes on. But yeah, so slowly they all kind of went away. And then, of course, the pandemic kind of just put the nail in the coffin and an onslaught just happened and everyone left. And we're still one of the last remaining stores.
Yeah, I mean, I've pretty much exclusively been post-pandemic. And I've never seen more than maybe 5 or 6 people in the mall while walking through. What was it like when it was at its peak, To
be honest with you, I wasn't here at the very peak. The very peak would probably be like even 10 years before when the U.S. Marshals occupied one of the buildings, and that was about 3,000 employees. Back in the day, I mean, it was so packed walking down the hallway that people were like bumping into each other. That's how busy it was. And there were also in front of our store, there used to be a food court with multiple, fast food, even a McDonald's at one point. So there's been a lot of change.
It sounds like it went from having a lot of kind of chain spots to more individualized. One of my favorites is the puppet store that's in there. Like, again, for people who haven't seen it, can you describe that spot?
Yeah, so I'm good friends with Alban. Every time he comes in my store, I say, Mon ami, because it means French for my friend. And he's from a French-speaking country in Africa. But yeah, it's a very unique store. He actually has been here for quite some time, and he's moved 5 times, and now he's at the end of the alleyway there. And it's a very eclectic type of store. I mean, he has puppets that you can't find vintage, things that you cannot find anymore. He's also a very talented artist. Some of his paintings are just extraordinary, and I'm trying to get my hands on one of them. So I talk to him pretty much every day. He stops by every day and says hello, and we become friends over the years.
I love that those are the kinds of people that are still in this Crystal City space. And what do you think attracted such a wide range of businesses to that space in the first place?
I could only speak for myself and for my business. What attracted me to this location was definitely, I knew this area was going to be redeveloped, and I knew we needed to be on a metro stop. And I liked the kind of the underground feel. It was kind of like a little village, if you will, of different stores. And it was a refuge from outdoors where, if it's raining or too hot, too cold, snowy, whatever, people can come in and have a place to shop, eat, and what have. And then also when we got here, it was kind of, it was not during the heyday, so we got a better rate. So I think people came here because the rates were reasonable at the time. They were a little bit below market rent. So I think that was a big drive to come here.
That makes sense. And yeah, that's how you end up with, like, again, Puppet Heaven, the sushi spot. There's a massage parlor. I mean, it's such a sprawling space with so many different little avenues and tunnels. And in recent days, like the last 2 or 3 years or so, what were your clientele? Like you mentioned families, but like who would you kind of see walking around on a daily basis?
I mean, a lot of local folks, but also, and people just going through, a lot of people use the corridor from Crystal Drive through the Marriott lobby or to the metro, as a thoroughfare. But, also office workers. Now, after the pandemic, office workers were much less. They would come in if, 2-3 times a week. So we've seen a lot less people walking through. If they only come 3 days a week, that's 40% less traffic. And that's a huge, substantial impact on the local businesses, which infected us as well. And I think that, helped drive people out. Like the numbers were not there to sustain the business.
Stunning stalactites, stupendous stalagmites, flowing limestones frozen in time, formations that are bigger than most houses. Luray Caverns has so many jaw-dropping marvels you have to see it to believe it. And after the awe and wonder of the caverns, explore local history at the Shenandoah Heritage Museum. Get a hands-on lesson in geology as you mine for gems at the Gem Sloughs. See the oldest operating car in America at the Car and Carriage Cavern. And take a look at a simpler life on the streets of Toy Town Junction. For almost 150 years, families have been unlocking all the must-see wonders of nature that you can discover at Luray Caverns 365 days a year. Plan the perfect holiday adventure your whole family will love at LurayCaverns.com.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. I want to take a moment to shout out my cat, Pistachio. You are so good. Thank you for always crawling onto my lap and purring whenever I'm stressed. This time of year, I am thinking a lot about gratitude. And while we might always remember to thank our loved ones or our pets, there's one person we often forget to thank: ourselves. And one way to make space for you and your feelings is through therapy, because sometimes cuddling your pet isn't enough. You need to talk it out. And therapy can help you learn to set boundaries, and it empowers you to be the best version of yourself. If you've been thinking about giving therapy a try, one fast way to get connected with a therapist is with BetterHelp. It's entirely online, so it's flexible for your schedule, and all it takes to get started is filling out a quick questionnaire that pairs you with a therapist who fits your needs. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/citycast today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/citycast.
When did you first hear that the mall was closing, and how did you feel at that time?
I mean, I kind of sensed that it was going to happen at some point or another. They were not renewing leases. They were not putting in new businesses. So, the writing was on the wall, and all the redevelopment that was focused outside on the water park, on Crystal Drive, the new Alamo Theater, all the new bougie type retail spacing and apartments. I knew this was up. This is coming up. But it's always hard, right? When you get the news, we got the news, I think, in July over the summer. And, I knew it was going to come, and I was mentally prepared. And I was already looking even prior to that for a new space. We really wanted to stay in Arlington. We really did. We scrubbed the market. Top down. I got a broker. We worked with the bid, our Huntington County officials. just anyone who could find us a space that would be suitable, that was large enough, and that was affordable enough. And, unfortunately, some places that we found that were perfect, the landlord did not like our use. So,
like they had a problem with the costume store?
So they would never say, we don't like your business, right? So, but they wanted a different use for it. And a lot of times it was like yet another coffee shop, yet another gym, and not to toot our own horn. We're a very unique, party and costume shop where we kind of a different type of store. And I wish we were given the opportunities to remain in this community. It just was not in the cards. But, now, we're happy that we found a new place and we're looking, we're moving forward.
I hear you're going to be relocating to Levant Plaza, and some people might see that as an upgrade because it's within DC, it's central. But I've read that you actually wanted to stay in Crystal City. What do you think you're losing by having to leave that space?
Yes, obviously, when you at a location for many years, and we were here for 9 years, and in Arlington over 13 years, you lose the local clientele. We built, friendships with our customers in the local neighborhood. So it's a loss when you remember seeing kids growing up with their families coming to the store, and it's an annual tradition, if you will. But also the local office workers and the local residents in the area who come by to, get their birthday party supplies or baby shower, bridal, or whatever. We feel like we're losing part of our family, if you will, because it is a community. We kind of view ourselves as the third place, if you will, like where people come together to kind of, hey, let's meet at the party store. Let's meet at the landing area where a Subway and our store meets. So yeah, it's kind of sad, but it is a new chapter. This chapter's closing, and we're looking forward to the new space that we're moving to.
I'm surprised, honestly, that it'd be easier to find a space above or as part of a metro center in DC as opposed to in the suburbs. That's unusual.
When I left DC, 13 years ago, I really did not want to go, never thought I would ever go back to DC because of all the high rent regulation and all the hurdles to get through to start a business. But, DC's hurting. Like most American cities, the downtown center cities are just hurting. And so now you see the pricing being the pricing has gone down a bit. You can negotiate a little harder. And I was able to secure a deal that was sustainable for our business. And that's the reason why. And it was on a metro. Moving to Lafont Plaza, I think, will be a good move. We'll see. You never know. But I think it will be a good move for us.
And so you're moving at the start of the new year, right? But most of the stores in the Crystal City Underground are closing down by the end of October, right?
Our last official day is December 31st. But most of the stores are closing, I believe, on October 31st. I think everyone got notice. I think JBG,
which is the developer, right?
Yeah, JBG Smith is the landlord, if you will, the developer of this area. And they've been good. They've been good in that they've been helping us to transition smoothly from this space to yet another JBG property in Lafont Plaza. So I don't know the details of other people's leases and so forth. So I'm not sure where they are. But the announcement is October 31st. Most of the stores are closing.
And has JBG Smith said anything about what happens after it closes? Like, do the tunnels shut down entirely, or does it just become a ghost town? Can people still walk through?
Yeah, so it's interesting. They're not really shutting the mall down. They're just shutting the stores down, basically, because, the corridors still are going to remain open. They're still going to have security, from my understanding. They're still going to have, some cleaning staff, and I guess they have to run the utilities. And yeah, because it is a thoroughfare. It's a thoroughfare between the hotels, the metro, and, Crystal Drive. So it's still going to be open. I guess it's just going to be corridors all boarded up with drywall.
Oh, that's going to be so strange.
Yeah, it's going to be very strange. So I'm sure they'll probably do something creative, I would imagine. And as far as what they're planning to do, no one really knows. They indicated they really don't have a plan. But maybe they do. Maybe they're keeping something in their pocket.
Keeping it close to the vest.
Yeah, keep it to the and I would understand why. If there's something big coming, they probably don't want to disclose anything if that's the case. Or maybe they don't. The reason why they said they need to do this is because they're losing money for all the operation, operating this place. And so they want to reduce their operating costs, utilities and insurance and so forth, which I guess makes sense.
Do you think the DMV at large is losing anything with the closure of these Crystal City shops?
I think something else will take its place. We're small businesses. We're not even a small business. We're what's called a micro business, which is truly a mom and pop. And we are the last of Mohicans. It's far and few between to have, unless you have investors where you have multiple establishments. Having a one pop-up store, retail or food service is dying out. And so, yeah, there is a little bit of loss to cultural reference to what yesteryear was. Today I would never start a retail business in this economic environment and the way things are. It would be too hard. I'm still doing it because I've been doing it for 17 years total. And I know what I'm doing, I guess. I think I do. But yeah, you do lose a little bit of yesteryear, of these vintage shops or local businesses because they just aren't being replaced by corporate, cookie cutter, bougie designed retail and food places. So yeah, there is a loss, but I think it'll be replaced with something else, hopefully.
Yeah, and I hope all your Crystal City neighbors also find homes in other easily accessible spaces. Because you're right, they're very unique spots.
Yeah, and I'm trying to help them too. I'm trying to look on. I'm always online trying to see if there's any spaces available for them because I really want them to continue.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and for being here today.
Absolutely, thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoy the show, please rate and review. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.